Let's start with a story from Chelm. Now, for those who know, you know, Chelm is the kind of place where everything is kind of upside down, it's every which way, nothing really makes sense. So late one night, a man from Chelm finds his friend crawling beneath a street lamp. And he says to his friend, "What are you doing?" And the man replies, "Well, I lost my keys." And so the friend immediately kneels down and he helps his other friend begin to search. And after a few minutes, he asks, "Listen, are you certain that you lost your keys right here?" "Oh, no," says the man. "I lost my keys across the street." Perplexed, the friend wonders, "Then why are we looking here?" And the friend replies, "Because the light is much better here." So we laugh because this happens in Chelm, but this actually happens everywhere. We look where it's comfortable to look, where it's easy, rather than looking where something has actually been lost. Perhaps that's why the Torah portion begins with re'eh, with to see. "See, this day I set before you blessing and curse." Blake spoke about choices, the idea to choose certain opportunities that will lead us to blessing. And when we recognize those pathways, we may find ourselves walking on a more righteous one. As I was flipping through the Chumash last week, I was thinking a little bit about blessing and curse, but I was also thinking about what we see and what we don't. Now, there are plenty of moments in our lives that we consider hit or miss. I would say these are moments of chance. We might see a piece of clothing that we like on sale, or we might miss that. We might notice an advertisement for our favorite band or a play coming to town. We might miss that altogether. On a more significant level, we might miss the opportunity to apply for a job, a grant, a scholarship, or we might miss the deadline. But if you know me, that's not the kind of seeing that I want us to explore this morning. I want to talk about a different kind of vision, the kind of seeing that happens to every single one of us. We see someone, we see a situation, and for whatever reason, we are uncomfortable. We assume someone else will help. We convince ourselves there is nothing that I can do right now. And so we choose to look away. Everything is in plain sight, yet we decide not to see it. We can choose so many examples to share. We see a homeless person on the street and ignore the painful scene before us. Maybe it's more personal. Someone we love is struggling in a relationship, maybe with financial loss, emotional distress, grief. They're drowning right before our very eyes. We can see them more clearly than ever, but we tell ourselves, "Don't look, because I can't possibly fix this anyway." And so our very capable eyes gives way to complacency. It becomes this strange kind of blindness where we train ourselves to think, I really don't think I saw anything at all. We kind of learned this dance a long time ago. Maybe you're still playing it. Peekaboo with babies and toddlers. You see, every time we hide from a baby and then reappear, they kind of squeal in delight. This is called object permanence. Developmental psychologists explain that object permanence is the understanding that something continues to exist even when it's hidden from view. But at the University of Cambridge, psychologist Dr. James Russell explains the idea further. He says that when young children choose to cover their eyes, they think when they cover their eyes, no one else can see them. It's called joint attention. Children feel hidden as long as they're not meeting another person's gaze. But once they lock their eyes with you, they think to themselves, "I see you, so you must see me. But we're not toddlers anymore. I think we know that if we don't literally lock eyes with someone else, we are still aware of what's happening both in the home and outside the home. The question isn't whether we see each other. The question is whether we are willing to see each other in a way that acknowledges what's real, to recognize and name both each other's joys and accomplishments, and also the hurt and the pain. But too often we confuse seeing someone with being responsible for solving their problems. But if you take anything from this sermon, I'm asking you to hold on to this. Seeing does not require fixing. Seeing means refusing to pretend that someone else's pain doesn't exist simply because it's too heavy for us to emotionally carry. In a few weeks in the Torah, we will read, if you see your fellow's ox or sheep go astray, don't ignore it. You must return it to its fellow. Lo titalem, do not ignore. But I think the Torah portion this week is really pushing us further. It's not just avoid ignoring. What the Torah portion is asking us to do is to lock eyes with someone else, even if it's uncomfortable. Don't scroll past Instagram or Facebook when you see a story that bothers you. Don't walk past that person on the street. Don't pretend that we didn't hear the pain in a loved one's voice, but see them. Say hello to the stranger. Look at the person who needs to know that they matter. Call the friend who needs support. Because sometimes we convince ourselves that if we don't ask about a problem, if we don't acknowledge it, if we don't name it, somehow it just won't get bigger. But we all know the truth. The problem exists whether or not we ask. But when we choose to reach out, when we see the other person, that's what Blake taught us. We create a pathway of blessing. Not because we have solved anything or everything or something, but simply because we have reminded someone else that they don't have to carry their pain alone. What's funny is if you ask most people, they don't want you to fix their problems. What they want to know is that in the end, you are present, that you care. In 2017, a local California news station invited viewers to submit stories of kindness. And one story that was submitted was a picture that a woman took at a Costco. And it showed the picture of a young employee, a young man, maybe in his early 20s, helping an elderly customer to her car. And the woman explained that what happened is that the employee didn't just go up to the elderly woman and ask if she needed help. What he did is he went to the woman, he took her cart, and he started to walk with her. But he walked with her according to her own pace. And so it took several minutes to get to her car. But they went step by step. And at some point, he reached out his hand in order to help steady her for the remainder of the walk. The reason why this kind of simple story got so much attention was because everyone knew it's not as if this act cured this woman's body. The next trip from the parking lot from Costco would still be just as difficult, maybe even just as painful. But that employee saw her, and because of that, it changed her day, maybe her month, maybe her outlook. For just a few moments, he reminded her that she mattered. I think we forget that just a few seconds makes all the difference. But we have to remember that in his act, what he did is he opened up a pathway of blessing, not just for her, but also for himself. When we choose to not look, when we choose to ignore what's right in front of us, I think we often discover that compassion and generosity and love, all of those deep virtues, they are waiting within us. They're waiting to be discovered. Emily Dickinson once wrote, "The best things dwell out of sight, the pearl, the just, our thought. And I think she's correct that the deepest blessings of all are often hidden, but not because they're invisible, but because we've stopped looking. When we choose to see, not in order to solve, but because we won't always be able to solve the issue. When we choose to see in order to support, to encourage, to acknowledge, to remind another human being that they're not alone in their pain and that pain is real. It's that kind of seeing that opens up worlds of blessing. And so my prayer for all of us on this Shabbat morning, may we open our eyes and see the blessings we are meant to receive. But more importantly, may we open our eyes and see the blessings we are meant to give. Shabbat Shalom.